4 types of meat you should cut back on after 60 and 4 that help you stay healthy. If you think you already know which meats are best to eat after 60, take a few minutes to double-check that assumption. As we age, our bodies change not just on the outside, but on the inside too. Our ability to process fat, control inflammation, eliminate toxins, and absorb nutrients slows down. That means the foods you had no trouble digesting in your 30s might now raise your blood pressure, damage your blood vessels, or disrupt your metabolism, without you even noticing right away. There's no need to cut meat out of your diet entirely, but choosing the right kinds and eating them the right way is more important than ever. Research from trusted health organizations has shown a clear link between certain processed meats and increased risks of inflammation, heart disease, and cognitive decline in older adults. At the same time, some nutrient-dense meats can actually help protect memory, preserve muscle mass, and boost immune function, all of which are essential for maintaining quality of life as you age. In this article, we'll break down 4 types of meat you should seriously limit after turning 60. 4 types of meat with proven health benefits, especially for older adults. How to choose, cook, and eat each one to get the most out of it. Everything is presented clearly, based on scientific data and advice from clinical nutrition experts, not internet rumors or trendy fads. If you're looking for a realistic, science-backed, and effective approach to eating well after 60, this is the perfect place to start. 4 processed pork sausages. Convenient today, long-term consequences. If you often start your day with pork sausages in breakfast, sandwiches, or weekend brunch, you're not alone. But once you're in your 60s or older, this is one food worth reconsidering. The issue isn't with raw pork itself, but with the entire industrial processing it undergoes. Mass-produced sausages typically contain nitrates and nitrites, preservatives used to maintain color and extend shelf life. Once inside the body, especially when heated or digested, these compounds can form nitrosamines, a group of chemicals classified by the World Health Organization as potentially cancer-causing in humans. In older adults, liver and excretory functions tend to become less efficient. This makes it harder for the body to eliminate harmful byproducts like nitrosamines. The risk increases when this type of food appears multiple times a week. A 2022 study published in the journal BMC Medicine tracked over 18,000 people aged 60 and older for nearly a decade. The results showed that eating processed sausages twice a week increased the risk of colorectal cancer, plus 22%, kidney function decline, plus 16%. Aside from the risks linked to preservatives, sausages are also extremely high in sodium, which can raise blood pressure and cause fluid retention in the legs and ankles, a common issue in older adults with heart conditions. Additionally, most pork sausages contain a lot of saturated fat, which contributes to higher LDL cholesterol, the type associated with plaque buildup in the arteries. If you have high blood pressure, high cholesterol, or diabetes, processed sausages combine all 3 risk factors into a single food item. A practical solution. Why is this food still so popular? Simple. It's convenient, easy to find, and quick to prepare. But if you're serious about investing in your quality of life after 60, consider making these changes. Prioritize fresh, unprocessed meat. Read labels carefully. Avoid products with nitrates, nitrites, and synthetic preservatives. If you like the taste of sausage, try using ground chicken or turkey, season it yourself with fresh herbs and spices, and bake instead of fry. Switching from processed foods to natural ingredients doesn't require a complete dietary overhaul, just a few smarter choices each week. But it can make a real difference, not just in your test results, but in how energized and healthy you feel every day. 3 packaged cold cuts and ham. Convenient today, health burden tomorrow. For older adults, packaged cold cuts like ham, sliced turkey, bologna, or roast beef are often seen as quick no-cook meal options. But after the age of 60, these foods deserve serious reconsideration. The problem lies in the processing. Cold cuts aren't just sliced meat. They go through multiple processing steps to extend shelf life and preserve color, including nitrates/nitrites, preservatives that can convert into nitrosamines compounds linked to colorectal cancer, high sodium content, typically between 500 to 900 mg per serving, which can raise blood pressure and cause fluid retention, especially in people with heart issues. Phosphate additives. These can impair kidney function, especially in individuals with already weakened kidneys. The risks are real. A 2020 study of over 40,000 adults over 60 found that eating cold cuts 4 or more times per week increases heart failure risk by 24%, overall mortality risk by 19%. Processed meats are also linked to chronic inflammation, which can contribute to memory decline in older adults. Practical alternatives. You don't have to give up sandwiches, just switch up the ingredients. Cook and slice your own chicken, turkey, or lean beef to keep in the fridge. Use boiled eggs, canned tuna, or hummus for quick meals. If you still opt for cold cuts, choose those that are nitrate/nitrite free, low in sodium under 300 mg per serving, labeled as phosphate free. Do this: read labels carefully. Prep cooked meats at home. Rotate options instead of eating cold cuts daily. Small changes like these can help ease the strain on your heart, kidneys, and memory, while still keeping things convenient and tasty. 2. Industrial fried chicken. Crunchy on the outside, risky on the inside. Fried chicken is a beloved dish, found at family gatherings and fast food joints alike. With its crispy coating and savory flavor, it's a comfort food many older adults find hard to resist. But if you're over 60 and still eating fried chicken regularly, it might be time to reconsider. The problem isn't the chicken itself, but the way it's processed, deep fried, and cooked at high temperatures. Why fried chicken is especially harmful for older adults. Absorbs industrial frying oil. Fried chicken sold in restaurants is usually cooked in cheap oils like soybean or corn oil, both high in omega-6 fats. Excessive omega-6 intake can trigger chronic inflammation, contributing to artery hardening, high blood pressure, and damage to the lining of blood vessels. Toxins formed at high heat. Deep frying produces compounds like acrylamide and advanced glycation end products age, which are proven to increase oxidative stress and break down collagen in the skin, joints, and blood vessels. This raises the risk of joint pain, accelerated skin aging, and loss of vascular elasticity, especially in people over 60. Refined starch coating. The crispy batter often contains white flour, sugar, and salt, which can spike blood sugar levels and promote belly fat, key drivers of insulin resistance and type 2 diabetes. A 2020 study published in the BMJ, which tracked over 100,000 women for 20 years, found that women who ate fried chicken more than once a week had 13% higher risk of death from all causes, 12% higher risk of death from heart disease. These risks were even greater for women over 60, who are more likely to have underlying cardiovascular, metabolic, or kidney conditions. The silent, cumulative impact. Older adults tend to digest food more slowly, right arrow, making heavy oils harder to process. Have reduced natural antioxidant defenses, right arrow, making cells more vulnerable to damage. Be more prone to muscle loss and joint pain, right arrow, worsened by AGEs. To make things worse, fried chicken often comes with fries, soda, or white bread, spiking overall calorie, sugar, and saturated fat intake. Healthier options that still taste great. You don't have to give up chicken, just change the way you cook it. Use the oven or an air fryer. Marinate with natural spices like paprika, garlic, or rosemary instead of prepackaged breading. If oil is needed, apply a thin layer of olive oil or avocado oil. Choose chicken thighs with thin skin, which are more nutrient-rich than dry, skinless breasts. Quick advice for people over 60. Crispy frying equals more inflammation, especially at your age. You don't have to give up your favorite food, just cook it smarter. Go for oven roasted or air fried. You'll still get the crunch without the long-term damage. If you still love crispy chicken, make it at home where you control the ingredients. After 60, your body doesn't handle fried foods like it used to, and every food choice adds up over time. One skinless industrial chicken breast seems healthy but not suitable for the body after 60. Skinless chicken breast has long been considered clean meat, low in fat and high in protein, almost a symbol of heart-healthy and diet-friendly eating. But for older adults, especially after age 60, eating industrial chicken breast daily can backfire. The issue isn't just the meat, it's how it's raised and how your body changes. Industrial chicken equals industrial meat. Most chicken breasts sold in supermarkets come from industrial farming. These chickens are raised to grow fast using genetically modified corn and soy, GMO, antibiotics, and sometimes even organic arsenic to speed up weight gain and prevent disease. Residues from this process can remain in the meat. In older adults with weakened immune systems and less flexible digestion, long-term exposure to these residues can disrupt gut microbiota, affect immunity, and increase the risk of antibiotic resistance. Too lean, lacking essential nutrients. Skinless chicken breast contains almost no healthy fats, yet fat is exactly what older adults need to absorb fat-soluble vitamins like vitamin D, crucial for bone health, vitamin E, an antioxidant. Vitamin K supports blood clotting and heart health. Eating overly lean meat without fat can lead to micronutrient deficiencies, dry skin, weak hair, slower wound healing. Additionally, when lean chicken breast is paired with white rice or bread, high in fast-acting carbs, it can spike blood sugar after meals, then drop it quickly, causing fatigue and making you feel hungry again sooner. A 2018 study in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition followed older adults who ate skinless chicken breast more than 5 times a week. It found a 16% increase in risk of muscle loss, sarcopenia, and decreased strength. No significant improvement in cholesterol levels. Increased inflammation markers, possibly due to lack of omega-3s and micronutrients. Notably, these individuals tended to eat fewer other nutrient-rich meats, leading to overall dietary imbalance. The risk of eating the same limited food repeatedly. Many people over 60 choose skinless chicken breast because it's simple, clean, and familiar. But repeatedly eating one low-nutrient protein source can lead to zinc deficiency, right arrow, weaker immune function; vitamin B12 deficiency, right arrow, memory and nerve issues; lack of collagen, right arrow, weaker bones, joint pain. The solution: eat smarter, not meatless. You don't have to cut out chicken, just adapt it to your body's new needs. Choose organic or free-range chicken, lower in antibiotics and growth enhancers. Keep some skin, helps absorb vitamins and retain moisture. Switch cuts, opt for thighs or wings, which are more nutritious. Diversify protein sources, rotate with fish, eggs, lean red meat, or legumes. In summary, for people 60 and up, skinless chicken breast isn't bad, but it's no longer ideal as you age. Your body needs more than just lean protein. It needs micronutrients, healthy fats, and variety. A healthy diet in later life isn't just about eating less. It's about eating enough and eating balanced. If chicken breast is a staple for you, just change how you choose and cook it. No need to give it up. Just update it to fit your body's needs in this new phase. 4. Grass-fed lamb. Nutrient-rich support for bones and muscles in older adults. Lamb is often considered a special occasion dish, not something that shows up in everyday meals. But for those over 60, grass-fed lamb is one of the meats worth adding to your regular diet, thanks to its nutritional profile, which aligns well with the needs of aging bodies. Why should older adults pay attention to lamb? As we age, our bodies gradually lose muscle mass. Bone density drops, inflammation becomes harder to control, and the immune system weakens. These changes can lead to osteoporosis and fragile bones, muscle loss, sarcopenia, increased chronic inflammation and joint pain, ongoing mild anemia. Lamb, especially from naturally grass-fed, non-industrially raised animals, is packed with nutrients and fatty acids that help address these issues in a natural way. Key nutritional benefits of grass-fed lamb. Natural omega-3s. Grass-fed lamb contains more omega-3s than conventional beef. Omega-3s help reduce inflammation, protect blood vessels, support brain health. Zinc and vitamin B12, essential for red blood cell production, immune system stability, preventing anemia in older adults. Heme iron, the most easily absorbed form of iron, boosting energy and supporting blood formation. Natural creatine and carnosine, two compounds that aid in muscle strength and recovery, critical as muscle mass declines with age. A 2020 study published in Nutrients tracked older adults who ate lamb twice a week. Results showed a 23% increase in muscle strength, a 15% decrease in systemic inflammation markers, CRP, IL-6. Additionally, this group had higher bone density and reported less joint pain than those who ate only white meat or processed meats. How to choose and cook lamb for seniors' health. Look for grass-fed or pasture-raised labels. Choose cuts with moderate fat like shoulder, leg, or ribs. Natural lamb fat contains CLA, conjugated linoleic acid, a fat that supports metabolism. Avoid deep frying or breaded recipes instead. Slow roast. Stew with vegetables. Pan-sear gently with garlic, rosemary, and olive oil. Note: for those with high cholesterol, simply trim the fat after cooking. No need to remove it completely. Much of the nutrient value is in the light fat layer. Quick summary for people over 60. Grass-fed lamb equals rich in omega-3s, iron, B12, and zinc. Supports strong bones, healthy muscles, and stable memory. Easier to digest than industrial beef. 2-3 servings per week is a good target. If your current diet is mainly chicken, fish, or lean meats, adding grass-fed lamb a few times a week could be a valuable upgrade for long-term health. Easy to cook, tasty, and senior-friendly. 3. Natural duck meat. High in energy, heart, and brain protection after age 60. Duck meat isn't a regular part of most daily diets in the U.S., especially among older adults. Many people think it's too fatty or hard to cook. But the truth is, when you choose the right kind and cook it properly, duck is a nutrient-rich source of protein that's highly suitable for nutritional needs after age 60. Why should older adults consider eating duck? As we age, the body doesn't just need protein, it also needs easily absorbed iron to prevent anemia, healthy fats to support heart function, omega-3s to reduce inflammation and protect blood vessels, B vitamins to maintain memory and energy levels. And duck, especially pasture-raised or naturally raised ducks, provides all of that. Nutritional strengths of natural duck meat. High in heme iron, more than chicken, which helps prevent fatigue and anemia in older adults. Rich in omega-3, especially if the duck was raised naturally, not fed industrial grain-based feed. Right arrow supports memory, circulation, and reduces joint inflammation. Contains monounsaturated fats similar to olive oil. Good for the heart and helps stabilize cholesterol levels. Provides B vitamins, B6, B12, niacin. Helps maintain nerve function and cellular energy. A 2019 study published in Frontiers in Nutrition tracked a group of adults over 60 who ate duck meat twice a week for 6 months and found a 19% improvement in cognitive scores, memory and focus. A 21% reduction in overall inflammation markers. The study also noted that the duck-eating group experienced less fatigue and more stable blood pressure compared to those who primarily ate white meat. What to keep in mind when choosing and cooking duck. Prioritize pasture-raised ducks, free from antibiotics and industrial feed. Right arrow look for labels like pasture-raised or free-range. Don't remove all the skin if cooked properly. Slow roasted or gently pan-seared. Duck skin contains fat-soluble vitamins A, D, K, healthy fats that support blood vessels. Avoid fried duck or industrial-style roast duck, which often contains too much sugar and sodium. Recommended cooking methods: slow roasting in the oven with herbs, cooking with vegetables, onions, carrots, celery, using rendered duck fat to sauté vegetables as a healthier alternative to industrial oils. Summary for people over 60. Duck meat equals iron, omega-3s, B vitamins, healthy fats, supports memory, blood circulation, and energy. Easier to digest than red meat, more nutritious than chicken. Eating it 1-2 times per week is a good balance. If you're concerned about cholesterol, don't let the fat content scare you away. When you choose the right kind and prepare it healthfully, duck is a nutrient-dense, easy-to-digest meat that's exceptionally well-suited for older adults. 2 whole sardines with skin and bones. small but incredibly powerful for healthy aging. In the world of natural nutritional supplements, sardines are a top contender, especially for people over 60. These small fish are often overlooked due to their strong taste or unfamiliarity, but the truth is, they are one of the most affordable, absorbable, and effective sources of protein and micronutrients for older adults. Why sardines suit the body after 60? After age 60, the body is more prone to osteoporosis, vitamin D and calcium deficiency, high cholesterol and blood fat, gradual memory decline, chronic inflammation, bones, joints, blood vessels. Sardines contain nearly all the nutrients that help with these issues and are especially effective when eaten whole, with the skin and bones intact. Key nutrients in whole sardines: natural calcium and vitamin D, found in the soft bones of sardines, easily absorbed and helps prevent osteoporosis. Omega-3s EPA, DHA, fight inflammation, lower triglycerides, support flexible blood vessels, and enhance memory. Complete protein, helps maintain muscle mass, repair tissue, and prevent age-related muscle loss. Vitamin B12 and selenium, support nervous system and immune function. A 2022 study published in the Journal of Nutrition, Health and Aging tracked older adults who ate sardines twice a week for 12 weeks and found bone density increased by 29%, triglyceride levels dropped by 32%, inflammation markers and cognitive function improved. Unlike larger fish like tuna or swordfish, sardines are low in mercury due to their short lifespan and low position in the food chain. This is especially important for older adults with weaker liver and kidney function. How to choose and eat sardines properly. Best choices: canned sardines in olive oil or lightly salted brine, clearly labeled with bones and skin, preferably without artificial additives. Ways to eat: eat straight with lemon, pepper, and raw veggies. Mix into leafy salads or whole grains. Lightly mash into whole grain sandwiches. Combine with pasta, chickpeas, or savory oatmeal. Note: if you're on a low-sodium diet, choose low-sodium sardines or soak them in warm water for a few minutes to reduce the saltiness. Summary for people over 60. Sardines equals strong bones, sharp brain, steady heart. Cheap, easy to store, simple to eat, and low in toxins. Eating them 2-3 times a week can replace calcium, omega-3, and D3 supplements. If you're taking multiple supplements, sardines can pack many essential nutrients into a small meal, without putting strain on your liver or kidneys, like many synthetic supplements do. 1. Organic beef liver, natural micronutrient boost for blood, memory, and energy. Beef liver isn't a common food for many Americans, especially among the younger generation. But for people aged 60 and up, it's more than just food. It's almost like a natural nutritional complex, containing more vitamins, minerals, and enzymes than any other type of meat. The catch is, not all liver is created equal. You need to choose beef liver from grass-fed, non-industrially raised cattle to ensure maximum safety and quality. Why beef liver is especially beneficial for older adults. At 60 plus, many people face issues like mild but persistent anemia, memory decline or trouble concentrating, chronic fatigue, slow recovery after illness or surgery, deficiencies in vitamin B12, vitamin A, iron, or zinc due to decreased absorption with age. Beef liver provides most of the nutrients needed to address these problems in just a small serving. Key nutrients in grass-fed beef liver: bioavailable vitamin A, retinol, supports vision, immunity, and skin repair, easier for the body to absorb than plant-based sources. Vitamin B12, folate, B6, essential for nerve function, red blood cell formation, and cellular energy production. Heme iron, the most absorbable form of iron, helping prevent anemia, a common issue in older adults. Zinc and copper, support immune-related enzymes and maintain the structure of connective tissue, skin, hair, and bones. Coenzyme Q10, CoQ10, supports heart function and cellular energy, especially important for those on statins or with a history of heart disease. A 2023 clinical trial published in the journal Nutrients found that older adults who ate 100 g of grass-fed beef liver twice a week for 10 weeks experienced a 44% increase in overall energy scores, a 37% improvement in memory and concentration scores, significant increases in serum iron and hemoglobin levels. No signs of vitamin toxicity were observed with this moderate intake frequency. How to choose and use beef liver safely and effectively. Choose liver from grass-fed cattle with no antibiotics and no growth hormones. Look for labels that say pasture-raised, grass-finished, or USDA organic. Proper preparation. Soak liver in unsweetened milk or diluted lemon juice for 15-20 minutes to reduce odor and improve texture. Lightly saute with onions, garlic, and rosemary. Don't overcook to preserve nutrients. Pair with leafy greens or vitamin C-rich fruits like oranges, bell peppers, lemons to boost iron absorption. Recommended intake: 1-2 times per week, around 75-100 g per serving is enough for most older adults. Avoid daily consumption. Who should be cautious with liver? People with gout due to high purine content, those taking high-dose vitamin supplements. Individuals with iron overload conditions, e.g., hemochromatosis, consult a doctor first. Summary for adults over 60. Grass-fed beef liver equals vitamin A, B12, iron, CoQ10, zinc. Benefits: better memory, more energy, anemia prevention, immune support. Eat 1-2 times per week. Prepare properly for best results. If you're taking multiple supplements but still feel tired, unfocused, or slow to recover, beef liver might be a simple, effective, and budget-friendly solution. Just choose clean sources and use it the right way. So now you know, not all meats are created equal, especially after age 60. Some types can quietly increase your risk of heart attacks, memory decline, and kidney damage, even if you only eat them once or twice a week. Meanwhile, other meats that are nutrient-rich, easy to digest, and support recovery often get overlooked due to old habits or misinformation. This isn't about dieting. This is about survival. If you want to stay sharp, protect your heart, maintain your muscle mass, and keep your independence with every step, choosing the right kind of meat is the first step. And now you've got the key. Now it's your move. Rethink what's in your fridge. Check the labels. Try changing up just one meal this week. And if this video helped you see something clearly, share it right away, not just for yourself, but for your partner, your siblings, or your parents who are still eating out of habit, unaware of the real risks. Leave a comment. What kind of meat do you eat the most? Which one do you want us to break down next? Like this video if you found it helpful. Subscribe to The Elderly Way, where we tell it straight, no hype, and focus 100% on helping older adults live healthier, live stronger, and live longer without sacrificing quality of life. Aging isn't a downhill slide. It's your chance to take back control, starting with your very next meal. See you in the next video, only on The Elderly Way.